Welcome back to I'm a Celeb Catch Up, and today we have got a lot to talk about. We have got trials, tribulations, people bickering, arguing, some weird things happening in the jungle. Plenty to talk about, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to talk about is basically what happened when everyone woke up. It seems like the Croc Creek gang had slept really, really well. I know that Sam had nicked a pillow from Nick's bed, and Nella was the first one to wake up, and she was kind of shocked to realize that she was the first one to wake up. She said something along the lines of like, "Oh, I'm not normally the one that wakes up first." No, what did she say? She said, when I wake up first, there's usually other people awake." And I was like, huh? Like I was scratching my head, and I think she meant to say something along the lines of like, um, when I first wake up in the morning or something like that. Because otherwise, if there are other people up first, then you haven't woken up first. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm chatting shit. The second interesting thing that I noticed was Frankie was talking about how he learnt English from EastEnders, which I don't know whether EastEnders is the best place to learn English. Don't get me wrong, it's a great show. However, I also think that it might be not the best place. Like, it's got iconic moments like the Get Out Me pub and You Ate My Mother, Yes I Am, and Bubbly's in the fridge. That's an iconic moment. But I don't know whether I would suggest people learn English from it. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it is like a long running TV show, so like, I guess it would work, but still, anyway, regardless, that's how Frankie said he learnt English. He said he came to the country when he was 14, and that was very interesting. He came on his own, had to make his own way because he was learning how to be a jockey. So, like, I gotta say, Frankie is telling some stories, they're very, very interesting, but I'm still not connecting to him in the same way that I'm connecting to Tony. Like, Tony makes me chuckle. Tony's just so brash and assertive that like he actually does really, really make me chuckle. So yeah, there was that. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was Jamie and Sam finding a huntsman spider. And I don't actually know if it's a huntsman spider. I'm just taking Sam's word for it. But it looked disgusting. It made me feel ill. And the fact that they kept on showing close ups of it, oh, I'm just thinking about it, actually made me want to vom. I do not like spiders. Spiders are not my fave. So yeah, I didn't appreciate it, but also slay. It's time to talk about Touchdown of Terror. Was it terror or torture? Pretty sure it was terror. So, basically, leading up to the trial, Nella and Sam were chosen. Nella was chosen by the public. Sam was chosen by Frankie, and I gotta say, I think that's a good pair. I think that works very well. However, Nella was very, very sort of like, I need Sam to sort of cut the joking out because like he's gonna ruin my zen, and it's not gonna be a good time, etc., etc. So she asked Danielle to go talk to him, and then Sam went and talked to her, and they had like a little zen moment. I do think that we are definitely seeing Sam's ADHD in full, and I find him really entertaining and so endearing. I think it's so sort of like interesting to watch someone like that in this situation because he's so hyperactive and like excitable. And I feel like there are some people in the camp that appreciate it. There are some people that don't. I think Danielle's definitely one of the people that like does appreciate it and has sort of made a good friend in him. But I feel like Nella, it ruins her vibe a little. Like her vibe is very, very chill at times, and with Sam sort of over the top. I don't want to say over the top because I don't even think it is over the top. I think it's just how he is. So like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, on to the trial. Because Nella and Grace were the ones that were voted, they were put in like helmets, think Sandy from SpongeBob, and they had in the first round their helmets full of mealworms. Not the most disgusting thing, but still very uncomfortable. And they had to unscrew American footballs from like the hell holes in front of them. And you can't see the fact that I am currently unscrewing with my hand. um, but yeah, so they had to unscrew those, then throw it to Grace had to throw it to Nigel, Nella had to throw it to Sam, and then they had to make a touchdown at the other end of the football field. I say football field, it was in the fucking skate arena. Like, it wasn't exactly the most difficult thing to do. Um, so yeah, there was that. And then I thought it was very interesting how Sam and Nigel had like they had like plastic things on. That sounds really weird, but like plastic trousers on that they had like green ants thrown in, so they literally had ants in their pants, and I thought that was very very funny. Um, so yeah, it was an interesting trial. It was quite close after the end of round one. Nella managed to unscrew three, but only managed to pass two to Sam. Grace only managed to unscrew one in that time. Um, and chuck it to Nigel, and Nigel scored it. So the score at the end of round one was 2-1. Moving on to round two, the helmets were filled up with cockroaches as well. And I gotta be honest, it looked like the bug level was mouth level, which I think is really uncomfortable and also kind of explains what happened when Nella quit the trial. And I don't want to be too hard on her for quitting the trial because I think I don't want to say I'm going to fare any better in that situation. I think I'd be just as uncomfortable and I'd be just as sort of and the warning bells would be going off. But I would like to see her complete a trial at some point. Do you know what I mean? Like she completed Locker Shocker, but that didn't involve bugs. She completed the Jungle Pizzeria. Again, didn't involve bugs. But I just don't feel like she can fully sort of commit to the trials with bugs in them. So please, if you're watching this, do not vote Nella to do trials, please. I know we usually like to take sort of enjoyment in watching people suffer, but there are interesting people in camp who have not been able to tackle a trial yet. We've not seen Fred tackle a trial. We've not seen Josie tackle a trial. I would rather watch those two do a trial than watch Nella do another one and fail it. Like I'd like to see a trial play out in its entirety rather than watch someone quit halfway through. Do you know what I mean? Like it's more enjoyment for us as viewers because like yeah, they're winning more stars, they're not having as tough a time, but like still, I don't know, it's just more interesting. So essentially with Nella quitting, Grace and Nigel basically default won, which you take the wins where you can. And so they were able to get food for the night, which I thought was great. The team was sort of supporting Nella in the fact that she gave up, but I think some people were sort of not pretending to be nice because I don't think anyone's pretending to be nice, but I think they weren't as sort of happy as they seemed, if that makes sense. Yeah, we're going to go with that. But either way, it was an interesting trial. I think it was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be because the trailer was very confusing and I didn't really understand it. But either way, it was a good trial and it's just a shame we didn't get to see it played out in its entirety because I genuinely do think that Nella's team would have won if she'd have stayed in. So it's time to talk about the first of this episode's playoffs. So we saw last episode they took part in that slam dunks challenge and it ended up with the home team on 41 points and the away team on 36 points. In this episode, they took part in Power Shower, which saw Marvin and Josie from Snake Rock, or the away team, and who is it from the home team? Jamie and Danielle, it was those two. And essentially the idea was one person had to put on a sponge suit, soak up as much water from the shower, and then the other person had to like squeeze the water out of them into an underground tank, and the person with the most liters would win. I gotta say, Marvin and Josie absolutely smashed it, and it was incredibly funny to watch because they were getting into some compromising positions, trying to squeeze all that water out, and it was so funny to see like both of them be like, "Don't tell Rochelle, don't tell Rochelle," because obviously Josie works with Rochelle, who is Marvin's wife, so like that's quite funny as it is. But yeah, those two were absolutely hilarious, and I found them so funny when they were doing that challenge. And then on the other side, Jamie and Danielle, they were doing good. I felt like they weren't doing as good, but also it was hard to tell because it's so heavily edited that like you don't actually know who's doing well until they've released the results. So essentially, they released the results back at camp, and it turns out that the away team won by a mile, and they are now ahead on 216 points. So I think it was the amount of litres of water that they got in the underground tank was added to their score. They got 216 overall from the two challenges they've done so far. And the away team, no, the home team has 137. So there's roughly 72 points in between. I think they said 72. I have not stopped and done the maths. But 72, or was it 71? I actually don't know. I can't be bothered. But anyway, it's quite a distance, I thought. And that's where we come on to the third challenge. And the third challenge was handball. And Fred is apparently a handball extraordinaire. He did it in France and he's apparently very, very good. But the idea was essentially loads and loads of different sized balls would drop, and they just had to pick them up using foam fingers and put them into like receptacles for each of them. Sounds easy, right? Well, Fred and Frankie, who were representing the home team, and Tony and Nick, who were representing the away team, took very different strategies. Fred and Frankie went very smart. Tony and Nick didn't. And it really sucked to watch because I was like, oh, Tony was literally like, yeah, we've won that, yeah, we've won that, yeah, we've won that. Like, there's no way we can't win it. And he was being very sort of like vocal about the fact that they had won it. And it was really awkward to watch because I was like, oh, if he loses this now, that's going to be really, really awkward. And I would not want to be the one to tell him. That's not comfortable at all. So yeah, essentially, it got to the point where basically they had different strategies. The smaller the balls, the more points they were worth. So the bouncy balls were 4, the ping pong balls were 3, the tennis balls were 2, the big balls were 1. Nick and Tony were just picking up any balls. Fred and Frankie, I forgot his name for a second there. Fred and Frankie focused entirely on just the small balls, the bouncy balls, and they got so many of them, and it was a little bit scary because I was like, oh damn, I don't think Tony and Nick have got this. I don't think they've got this. And then right at the end of the episode, they went back to camp and they were told that they will be told tomorrow, and they were obviously told live on TV, and that meant that this was so awkward because again Tony was sitting there going, yeah, we've won, there's no way we've lost, there's no way we've lost. Ugh, yeah, it turned out that the overall scores were home got like 404, and then away got 383 or something like that. And like essentially the away team, Tony's team, lost. They lost out on the breakfast. So like Nella and Fred's group won. And I was like, oh, that's so tough because the people who actually deserve the breakfast, the ones who've been living in Snake Rock, have lost. Oh no, that's so terrible. Oh, that's so tough to hear. Oh, bless them. Genuinely, I felt really, really bad for them. I was not. It's tough. It's tough. And the icing on the cake was that apparently two of them are going to have to take part in like the next Bush Tucker trial, which is a drinking challenge. So it's just drinking horrible things. So like, I think I could do the drinking challenges. I think you just gotta knock it back and get rid of it. Um, It's a lot better than some of the bug challenges, let's just put it that way. There's not really much else to talk about. Jamie was very open about talking about Brittany, which was quite interesting. I feel like Jamie's not been quite as open as I expected her to be about Brittany, but like she seems to think they're on good terms, which is good. Although the media likes to claim otherwise, so I don't really know what's going on there. Um, but she also spoke about the iconic kiss between Madonna and Britney. I also thought it was with Christina as well, but I could be making that up, and that could be like a Mandela effect for me. But yeah, again, one of the most iconic kisses of all time, like Fred said, and I thought it was really interesting to hear like Jamie's take on it. She said that she was in school and she just thought it would be hilarious to talk about at school the next day. And her mum was like very on board with it, being like, "Oh, it's just her expressing herself. It's artistic." And I was like, "Oh, do you know what? Very progressive." Because wasn't it back in like 2000 and like the early 2000s? Because like I remembered something with Justin as well. Like I was born in the early 2000s, so like it's very much sort of like I've only heard about this. I don't remember it. Um, but yeah, so it was interesting to hear Jamie talk about her sister a little bit more. I think the more time I spend with Jamie, the more I'm liking her in terms of like I didn't really like the crying, but now the crying has kind of stopped. She's kind of growing into her own character. She's getting more accustomed to jungle life, and I think it's just a lot more interesting to watch, I guess. So yeah, I don't really have much else to say really. Like the trials kind of dominated this episode. The dinner that the guys in Snake Rock, that's what the camp's called. I keep forgetting it. It was quite nice. It looked like I think it was like steak of some kind, which was quite cool. So yeah, thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you're enjoying these videos, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff as usual. I'm also doing Big Brother US videos. I know it finished like a couple of weeks ago and I'm only just started to cover it, but like I am behind, and also I only just found the time to actually sit down and start watching it now that I'm no longer as invested in Big Brother UK. So yeah, make sure you check those videos out if you want to. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Keep on ranting. See you later. Bye now.